On a warm Monday night in September, the Giants began the defense of their Super Bowl title against the very team they had wrested that honor from in 1987, the Chicago Bears. This matchup promised to be a stern test in a season when the Giants knew that every opponent they faced would carry more than a chip on their shoulder. It was indeed a challenge, and for a few fleeting moments, the 1986 NFL champions seemed to be picking up right where they left off. The offense moved the ball well in their opening series. The defense was physical and intimidating. The special teams were at their opportunistic best.
Between the 40 and 45, high snap, he saves it. Block, free ball, rolling in the end zone. Giants have it there.
Ironically, this touchdown, scored early in the season opener, would be the high point for the 1987 Giants. On that fateful night, the Giants were ultimately smothered by a tenacious and hungry Bear team. After falling to the Bears, the Giants were down by their arch rivals, the Dallas Cowboys. The disastrous 3-week player strike followed, and after finding themselves with an early 0-5 deficit, the Giants' season seemed to be over before it ever began. Although the Giants played well after the strike, winning 6 of their last 10 games, they had experienced a humbling fall from grace. But this proud organization, never one to brag in victory, offers no excuses in defeat. Head coach Bill Parcells and general manager George Young have no illusions about the season past.
Game of happenings, and we had our opportunities last year to win, and we couldn't get them done. And you can't say this silly thing about, well, if it had been 1986, we would have made those plays. I think that's nonsense looking back there. We had our opportunities to make the plays. We didn't make the plays. That's all. The other teams were making them, and we just couldn't get it done this year. But it's just a certain thing, a certain kind of happenings that occur that didn't go our way, and we didn't get it done. And I think that our players live with that the whole off season, and they don't want that repeated.
If we probably made a mistake was the attitude, well, if we can pick up where we left off. I think that basically was a mistake. I think you had to go back and think more like if we could start where we started, we would have been a lot better off than the idea of, well, if we can pick up where we left off.
The Giants march into a new season with the realization that dominant playoff victories are the result of hours of preparation in the off-season. That a Super Bowl victory in January is rooted with hard work in July. And that the key to regaining an NFL championship is to remember how you got there before. A new season begins in training camp. But as Bill Parcells so well knows, success in 1988 will depend on the single-minded commitment of his players in the off-season. Pumping iron is one thing. Pumping new blood into key areas of concern is another. One of those areas is the offensive line. For a number of years, guards Billy Ard, number 67, and Chris Godfrey, number 61, and center Bart Oates, number 65, were unsung heroes in the Giants' overall success. But the cohesiveness of this unit was interrupted in 1987 by the loss of tackle Carl Nelson at the beginning of the season, and by the retirement at the end of the year by number 60, tackle Brad Benson. Of the many questions concerning the Giants in 1988, this is one area in need of answers.
We were fortunate, 84, 85, 86. For all intents and purposes, those fellows played well together for 3 years. But it's time to do something. We had the unfortunate thing with Carl Nelson, our right tackle. Our left tackle, Brad Benson, retired. So obviously, it's going to be different.
The Giants loaded up on tackles in the NFL draft, and new talent should help shore up pass protection and upgrade a running game that sputtered in 1987, despite Billiard's attempt to emulate William the Refrigerator Perry. A key beneficiary of a revamped offensive line will likely be Joe Morris, number 20.
I've always told our defensive players that all those great backs are the same when there's no hole to run through. They all look the same when they run into that pile and get tackled. And I think that was Joe's case last year. He just didn't have the places to go. I think Joe has rededicated himself, like some of the other guys, to the point where I think he's going to have some places to go this year.
Wherever Joe Morris goes, it's a good bet the number 44, Maurice Carthen, will be on hand to provide some moral and physical support. In addition to Carthen, the Giants will look to versatile Lee Roussan to provide backfield depth, while the multi-talented George Adams should continue to improve now that he's back in full health. Another vital weapon in the Giants' offense is Lionel Manuel, number 86. Manuel possesses all-pro potential, but he has been plagued by injuries throughout his career. Hopefully, a new off-season workout program will go a long way in bringing out a full season of consistency from this spectacular game-breaking performer.
Sims looking right. Sims throws. He's going for everything. Way down. Deep it is. Complete. Did he catch the ball? Yes! Touchdown!
Veterans like number 81, Stacy Robinson, and number 84, Zeke Mowat, are also expected to be contributors, while youngsters like Mark Ingram and number 83, Odessa Turner, must back up their college press clippings with pro-level performance. Turner came on strong at the end of last season, as did fellow rookie wideout Stephen Baker, number 85. The diminutive Baker, nicknamed the touchdown maker in college, provides another dimension to a potentially powerful core of wide receivers.
Rutledge takes the handoff to Morris. He's throwing long. Down deep. He's got Baker. Yes, at the 1-yard line. He's in. Touchdown.
Veteran Phil McConkey, number 80, adds depth at wide receiver and consistency in his role as the team's premier punt returner. The punting game remains solid with the reliable Sean Landeta. But there is no doubt that the Giants will need more aggressive play out of their kicking coverage units in the coming season. The Giants boast some strong special team performers like number 28, Tom Flynn, and number 52, Pepper Johnson. Hitting people. It's been the trademark of a Giant defense that has been one of the NFL's best in the decade of the 1980s. Statistically, the Giant defense stacked up well in 1987, but too often they lacked the killer instinct to put away opponents in the final quarter. In 1988, the need to return to their former all-out four-quarter assault on opposing offenses will be their highest priority. The Giants are strong at nose tackle with veteran Jim Burt, number 64, and young Eric Howard, number 74. Tackle Eric Dorsey, number 77, has all the physical tools to be an all-pro, while a return to health will be vital to former Pro Bowler Leonard Marshall, number 70. Then there's George Martin, who, like vintage wine, improves with age. Like George Martin, Harry Carson continues to defy Father Time. In 1987, Carson tied an NFL record by playing in his 9th Pro Bowl. Carson is the spiritual leader of an elite group of linebackers that includes fellow Pro Bowlers Lawrence Taylor, number 56, and Carl Banks, number 58. Youngsters like Pepper Johnson and veterans like Gary Reasons and number 54, Andy Hedden, lend depth to this unit that remains one of the league's best. While linebacking is a Giants' strength, the secondary is an area of concern. Improvement is expected from third-year safety Greg Lasker, while fellow third-year player Mark Collins has already emerged as a true talent at the corner. Number 27, Herb Welch, can play both the corner or at safety, while Perry Williams, when healthy, is perhaps the unit's hardest hitter and best all-around athlete. Harry Kennard, the senior member of the secondary, is coming off one of his best years.
Bootlegs left, they're after him. He throws left. It is intercepted at the 30-yard line. 35-40 by Kennard. 45 by Kennard. 50. 45-40. He might go. He's out of the 25. He's going to score.
In 1988, the Giants will need to return to an opportunistic and aggressive form of play that brought them a championship in 1986. Above all, this unit must regain its swarming intensity and its fourth-quarter killer instinct that all too often was missing in 1987. The definition of a great coach is not simply a coach who has won a championship. He is a coach who can maintain excellence over an extended period of time. The great coaches know that they must have players who are extensions of themselves. Men of strong character, whose moods reflect a team spirit. They are the players who play with pain. Players whose presence bring a touch of class to the playing field. One player that Bill Parcells looks to provide the necessary on-the-field leadership is Phil Simms. In 1987, the veteran starting quarterback came full circle. In a matter of months, Phil Simms went from Super Bowl hero to injured non-starter sitting on the bench. While backup Jeff Rutledge played capably, leading the team to 2 victories and 3 starts after the strike, there is no doubt that the Giants are a different team when Phil Simms is in the lineup.
I have a tremendous amount of confidence in Phil Simms as a player because I know that when he goes on the field, he's going to take his shots, he's going to blame himself first for things that don't go well. He's not a second guesser. He doesn't criticize his teammates, and yet he's tremendously competitive, and I think he's a visibly competitive guy, and it's quite obvious you can win a championship with him, but I think you can sustain excellence with him also.
While Phil Simms is well on his way to breaking every quarterback mark in the Giant record book, Lawrence Taylor appears to have his place in NFL history clearly defined.
I think you're talking about one of the best guys that ever played. I don't think there's any question about that. Maybe the best guy, in deference to all the other great players that have come before him. And I'm not saying he is the best, but he certainly has to be among the top handful of players that ever played in this league.
He may indeed be one of the best to have ever played the game. Yet there are those who think that there may be an even better linebacker on Lawrence Taylor's own team. Carl Banks is different in temperament from Lawrence Taylor, and he plays a different kind of game. But he shares with LT a love for the purely physical side of football. And whether it's number 56 or number 58 making the play, the results are usually the same. Like a Lawrence Taylor or a Carl Banks, Mark Bavaro can inspire by running over people. Like Phil Simms, he can inspire by putting points on the board. Perhaps no Giant player better exemplifies performance by example than the NFL's premier tight end. For the second year in a row, Bavaro led the Giants in receiving. But the true value of this working-class hero goes beyond the statistics. Bavaro is indeed a sixth offensive lineman with tenacious blocking abilities. And his never-say-die effort is the kind of play that brings out the best in all of his fellow teammates.
I think he can inspire other people or greatness in other people by virtue of what he does. I think we have a couple of players on our team that can do that, and I think he's one of them.
Inspiration on the field and off the field. Bavaro is known for his economy with words, but in his work with handicapped children in conjunction with the March of Dimes, he finds communication to be no problem at all.
It's good to go where they don't know who you are. It's very humbling, and so they find out you're a football player, and that's all they care about. It's good that a football player will take his time and come to see them. It really makes them happy. The ones who are fans really know. And we sit down, we analyze everything, and you know, they tell me it's all right when I drop a ball, and it makes you feel good and that through something they care about. It's just my way of giving back to the kids who aren't as fortunate, and it's just a good feeling.
Mark Bavaro, a legend in the making, a true inspiration to the tough guy fans who support the Giants and to those less fortunate, but who are also tough in every sense of the word.
You're welcome. Thank you.
In 1986, the Giants strode to the top of the NFL with a powerful performance in the Super Bowl. 1 year later, they fell to last place in their division. One season was characterized by single-minded, intensive play. Another was full of doubt and defeat. Two very different pictures that come together as the Giants' single biggest factor of motivation in 1988.
I think the thing that I recognize now that I probably didn't recognize as a coach is how precious the championship is. And I think once you win it and then someone takes it away from you, you realize just how precious it is. And I think that creates a resurgence mentally. I know it's happened with me. I certainly feel more energetic, more determined at this point than I felt last year. Now, what the reasons are, I don't really know. But it just seems to me that my coaches, my players, myself, everyone is approaching 88 a lot differently than we approached 87.
The Giants head into the 1988 season as one of the league's most talented teams. But as they learned in 1987, talent alone does not guarantee victory. Staying on top is a far more difficult struggle than reaching the top. For the Giants to once again stand on top of the NFL, they must regain the single-minded intensity that brought them there before. They have the talent and the on-field leadership to do it. Hopefully in 1988, the Giants can revert back to their hard-working roots and set their sights in the future on reclaiming their role as the NFL's best.